All right, guys, welcome. This is a preview of happenings around the world of sports in the year 2025. Welcome to the YouTube live for Sporting Night this lovely day. It's almost 2026. I'm sure a lot of persons are quite excited about the year to come and, expecting a lot of things to happen this year. So we should be, interested in all that would happen in the year 2026. However, it's quite important to also look at all that has gone down in the world of sports in the year 2025 and have a conversation around it. So let's talk about the year 2025 and happenings in the world of sports. I'm sure you all have favorite moments or moments that brought um, some flavor to the world of sports for you, be it in football or basketball or any kind of sports you're involved in. There'll surely be moments that really made you excited. So feel free to talk about them, drop them in the comments, and it will be a good thing to have that conversation about what we saw in 2025. What a year it's been. Okay, so I'll be running through some happenings in the year 2025, actually when it comes to the world of sports as a whole. We'll just run through everything, then focus on football and the NBA, which I'm quite sure lots of my fans on the live stream would want to have conversations about. So we'll run through some happenings, around the world of sports. I mean, it's a good thing to be live with you on the new year where lots of persons are, excited and yearning for new happenings, right? Yeah, as usual. I mean, the previous year, if you ask me, had a lot of expectations. I mean, you could always move the expectations from one year to the other and still strive to achieve them. So we all should continue to do our very best to meet our goals. And let's go back to our conversation about the year 2025. I mean, lots of things went down. Remember, 2025 was the year uh, lots of persons, lots of countries started preparing for the 2026 World Cup going down in America, Canada, and in Mexico, right? So uh, we saw a lot of qualifications, and then for Africa, we saw some big teams not make it to the World Cup. One is Nigeria. I mean, lots of Nigerians are really, really by the fact that the country would not be going to the World Cup going down in America, Canada, and Mexico. So that's one that people are really not happy about. Actually, here in Nigeria. Yes, this live stream is actually right here in Nigeria. But then please feel free to let us know your sporting moment in the year, and let's talk about it. So give me a moment. I'm trying to set up. So you can hear what you call bangers or knockouts or firecrackers being, played all around due to the celebrations for the year 2026. Interesting. I mean, people want to celebrate and have a good time. And that's what we're seeing happen outside. Just a moment so I can share my screen. Okay, so let's start with the NBA. I mean, 2025 was the year we saw the OKC win the NBA championship. I mean, they took the league by storm, led by SGA, Shigel Alexandra, who's been fantastic. The Canadian basically showed the world that he's arguably the best player in the NBA right now. And I mean, he was really fantastic. He did a lot of things no one thought could be done. So it was a year that XG actually stood up and took the NBA by storm and brought the championship to OKC, something that they've not had in a long, long time. In fact, they were the youngest team ever to win the league championship, and the way they did it, they basically took the lead by storm, winning with um, a really quality squad. A really quality squad that had very fine players who had everything to show. Right, we're led by a player who had three players who finished the season with 20 plus points. That's the likes of SGA, Shea Gilgeous Alexander, I keep mixing his name up, and Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren all finished with 20 plus points throughout the season. And I mean, lots of people were wondering if SGA was going to be the face of the NBA, and he really showed why he ought to be called the face of the NBA. He was fantastic, throughout the season, and right away he started the new season really well. He's put everything in place to ensure that the season starts very well. So uh, fans of the NBA are really thrilled to have a player like him dominate, right, in the year 2025. And I'm sure 2026 will be no different. Currently in the NBA, he has a record of about 90 plus games back to back where he's finished. He has at least 20 points. He's done this consistently. And the way he plays, no one can really stop him from, you know, giving the best, from showing the stuff he's made of. So SG has been fantastic. He's really started the season on a high, I must tell you. Started the season really, really well. Okay. Okay, a moment trying to set up. All right, so that was the year, the UKC won the championship. And I mean, it was a thing of joy to see a team as good as the UKC, shows that they are really fantastic. And winning the NBA in that fashion was not something a lot of persons really expected, but they really thrilled a lot of us. I was really impressed with how they took the NBA by storm. And interestingly, this season too, they're doing quite well. If you ask me, they're basically the top seeded team in the league, and that means that they would most likely win the West. And if they win the West, it means they're showing once more that they're a team to reckon with. They're really deep. They have all the machinations needed to prosecute such a fine tournament. So it's an interesting one we'll be seeing uh, as teams continue to pan on. All right, so we've talked about the NBA. I mean, other records we need to keep at the back of our minds. The fact that James, who's a record setting player, he's 40 plus and still doing his thing in the NBA. He's just fantastic, right? He's still in the NBA and he's still showing the stuff he's made of. The NBA All Star voting started a few days ago, and he's not getting as much points as he usually gets, but you'd expect that at some point his point total will go up, and he would be having another All Star weekend. He would be part of the All Star team. And then, interestingly, yeah, was one of the most interesting uh, transfers. Yeah, when we have Luka Doncic leave Dallas Mavericks to move to the LA Lakers. No one expected that to happen. I mean, having a franchise player leave to LA Lakers is something you would not expect to see anywhere, but saw that in the NBA, and it shocked a lot of people. Right now, Dallas Mavericks are in a rebuild mode, but you start to wonder if the fact that they allowed their star player to leave is something that they should have, allowed to happen, but then it didn't. When that happens, a lot can actually go down. Yeah, so the team is really trying to recoup and put things in order as the season runs through. I mean, they have Cooper Flag, who is actually one of the future stars in the NBA. I mean, he's on that level with the French phenom, right, Victor Wembanyama. So I feel they have a star player in him. But then when you have a generational star like Luka Doncic, you really won't think of letting him leave your team. It's not something you want to see. But then that happened, and they're suffering for it. But it's just a matter of time to allow their young stars to grow and train them up, and I'm sure they'll get to a really good place. Okay, so that's it for the NBA. I mean, currently the season is ongoing. OKC is still leading the West, and then we have teams like New York Knicks who are doing really well. In fact, they won the NBA Cup. So the season is still moving from point to point, and we expect it to really heat up, right? Now let's talk about the World Cup. It goes down this year. There were lots of qualifying games on different continents, and here in Africa, Nigeria will not be going to the World Cup because they fumbled the qualification series. I mean, there were games Nigeria should have won. They didn't win, especially at home, and that cost them the special ticket to the World Cup. South Africa will be going to the World Cup, so South Africa, Ghana, will be at the World Cup. Ivory Coast, Senegal, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco are the other teams that will be at the World Cup in 2025. And remember, it's going down in the countries of the United States of America, Canada, as well as Mexico, or Mexico, as the Americans would want to put it. So it's an interesting one, really, to see how these teams would qualify. Already, there are pre-qualification games that will be going down around the world. For Africa, Congo haven't defeated Nigeria in the playoffs. We'll be playing one of the teams in the other bracket, and a victory for them would mean they will be sailing to the World Cup and they'll be representing Africa. I mean, that's what Africans would expect for DR Congo. All right, so the stream is still on. So feel free to tell us what you think about the year 2025. What's your thoughts? What were your special moments that defined the year for you? Feel free to drop it on the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe. That will help the channel to continue growing from strength to strength. We'll be expecting all that from you. And let's talk about the leagues in Europe, the football leagues in Europe. Well, Arsenal have taken the league by storm. They're pushing and working really hard to win the Premier League this season. Last season, I mean, the season before, in fact, the last 5 seasons, they've they in top two, and then one of the season they finished top three. They've continued to show that they are arguably one of the best teams in the say the NBA, in the Premier League. However, they've stumbled or crumbled at some point. The question is, now they're leading the league heading into the new year. Will they crumble again? Will they crumble again? Lots of people feel that the Arsenal can crumble, but can they? Do you think they will come crumble? I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, right? I don't hide that. And if you ask me, I don't want Arsenal to win the league. But the way they're playing, with the kind of zest and panache, the way they carry themselves, you feel that they would win the league if they continue in this third. But then if you feel they can't, or they would win the league, feel free to drop your comments. It would be nice to see your thoughts or get your thoughts on these games. Also in the La Liga, it was a really interesting season, right? It was an interesting season that saw Carlo Ancelotti leave the helm of affairs, and Alonso is now in charge. However, he's battling with some issues with Real Madrid. You know, there are rumors about him being sacked at some point if things do not change, and we're also hearing of some sort of mutiny by the players. You know, sometimes when you have a manager who's not able to manage big egos like Carlo Ancelotti, who's known to be the grandmaster of managing egos, when you don't have that kind of that kind of quality, you know, managing big players in a club like Real Madrid, that it would usually be challenged in the long run. And I'm sure that's what they are suffering at this point in time. Okay, let's talk about some other things. Now, talking about the Premier League, Arsenal, as I mentioned earlier, are taking the league by storm with how well they've been performing, and the fact that they've been taking care of games and defeating their opponents. Um, for teams like Chelsea, who have struggled, I mean, after winning games in November, the coach was named the manager of the month. December was just a horrible month. After that fantastic game against Arsenal, Chelsea really struggled and struggled up till now. I mean, against Bournemouth about two days ago, they were held at home at Stamford Bridge. Remember, Stamford Bridge at some point used to be a fortress, a location Chelsea rarely loses games, but now it's turned into anywhere where teams just go and match Chelsea, defeat them, they draw at home. I mean, Chelsea lost against Sunderland at home. I mean, that rarely happens, you know, but it's now a norm, and that's a problem for Chelsea and their fans. I'm sure something would have to be done somewhere. The fans, the coach Enzo Maresca would need to make decisions to make changes, and I'm sure things could change at some point. But the earlier things change, the better for him and for the club, because if he continues in this third, I'm sure there will be conversations about sacking him, and that will not be what loss of fans and Enzo Maresca himself will be looking out for. So that's something to keep at the back of our minds. Okay, so just as we're speaking, we have this breaking news for Chelsea fans, and I'm not sure this is the kind of story Chelsea fans would want to hear as we start 2026. So Enzo Maresca is considering his position at Chelsea as the head coach. Maresca, who decided to may decide actually to resign after a breakdown in relations, yeah, with key figures at the club. Maresca stood by the comments he made on the 13th of December that many people at the club were not supporting him or the team. He described the days leading up to the 2-0 victory over Everton as the worst 48 hours of his time at the club. Maresca signed a 5-year contract when he joined Chelsea with an option to extend it for a further year. Chelsea won the Conference League and the Club World Cup in 2025, and Maresca led them both into the championship. Led them back into the championship. So, what do you think? It looks like Enzo Maresca is walking on tight ropes. Chelsea are not playing well, and yeah, accusations we're hearing all around is that he's not getting the support that he yearned for, and that might make him to leave the club. So would that be the solution for Chelsea? That's a conversation that would need to be had because I'm sure lots of persons would want him to stay. Well, there are still some that want Enzo Maresca to leave the club. So, what's the best option? Well, only time will tell. But this is really big information coming from Stamford Bridge. So, let me have a sip of my tea.